If you go to these seminars, for me, at least my experience was they sell a very big, quick dream. I mean, they're like, oh, if you haven't closed the deal in like 30 to 60 days, like real estate's not for you. I went into it just being like, this is going to be quick. Like I was like, wow, a year from now, like my life is going to be completely different. It took me like 9 months to do my first transaction, right? So that was the biggest challenge, was like sticking through it.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that have been successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a new path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we have Rodrigo Afanador. So glad you're with us, Rodrigo. Bill, take it away.
Yeah, thanks for being on the Road Less Traveled podcast show, Rodrigo. Appreciate you being here.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks for the invite. Excited to chat. Absolutely.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what your former career was, and how many years you were in that?
Yeah, so I got to Asheville back in 2009, and that's kind of when my adult life started, if you will. I just finished school and was trying to figure out what was going on there. And so I did a bunch of different things before I got into real estate. But right before I did real estate, I was working as a legal assistant at a law firm. Had a big focus on doing like personal injury and worker compensation law, which I found it very interesting, and it was fun. And then at nights I was working as a server, waiting tables. And so I was doing kind of a combination of those two things for, it was about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And then the real estate bug hit.
Well, yeah, on that. And what path have you taken in real estate?
So right now my focus is a combination of doing like fix and flips, wholesaling, and then long-term holds.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Nice. So Rodrigo, when you were working in the legal field and again, believe me, working as a server part-time, I know I've been there. You're trying to pay the bills and get yourself your real, your footing underneath you and all that good stuff. Is there anything humorous along the way that you encounter, perhaps in legal or even the other side, that just kind of said, "Listen, I gotta do something different"?
Well, so when I first started working as a legal assistant, I was super excited because I was like, "Oh, I could totally see myself being an attorney," or so I thought. And so my first year or so there, it was all about like, "Oh, this is great!" Like taking notes and really trying to like chart out the course and seeing a visible path. And then the more I kind of did it, the more I realized I was like, I would not want to be the attorney when I'm whatever the attorney's age is. Like, I don't feel like anything's changed between now, what I was doing and what he was doing, like obviously the problems or that type of thing was different, but I mean, like the lifestyle was essentially the same, still showing up, suit and tie every day. And, the hours are this, like, I didn't see a major benefit other than like, a bigger paycheck to being the attorney. And so I don't know. I don't know if I'd say I soured on the idea, but I definitely was like, okay, like maybe there's other alternatives that could be just as good or even better.
So that's probably good that you figured that out before you spent a couple $100,000 and 3 years of your life on law school.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Well, was there a single like deciding factor, or was it just kind of accumulation that you saw, what you could do in real estate, or how'd you become more interested in that and decided to make the change?
Yeah, so there's not like a specific moment, right? Like I only have good memories from the time in the legal or from when I was in the legal field. It was a great experience. I learned a lot. So nothing bad happened. It was just more of like, that path. I was like, I don't want to go down it so much. But as far as the real estate, like I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and then I just heard a commercial on the radio to go to one of those like, drink the Kool-Aid seminars. And I drank the Kool-Aid, and that's kind of where it all started. Is like, do the 1 hour lunch. And then it's like, if you want to learn more, you got to pay a couple $100 to do the, Saturday morning, and Saturday morning shows up, pay a couple $1,000 for the week, so I did that whole thing.
Right. Now, are you doing what you started doing, or did you transition through? Was it always wholesaling and fixing and flipping, or?
Yeah. So wholesaling, I started from the beginning, and like, I'll probably always have a component of wholesaling. Like it's just, once you're, for me, always looking at properties and kind of got the marketing down, even if you're buying or you're renting, like sometimes there's just something you want to kind of move on from. So, but yeah, no, my focus right now is mostly fix and flip or buy and hold.
So, Rodrigo, as you were moving out of the legal area into doing the real estate full time, you took the path that we obviously strongly recommend, and that is get education, learn about what you're going into. You don't want to just jump on the deep end. But at the same point in time, as you really kind of started moving there, were there some obstacles, anything you encountered along the way?
As far as transitioning into real estate?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it was total chaos. Because like if you go to these seminars, for me at least, my experience was they sell a very big, quick dream, right? So I think I was like, I don't know, 21 or 22, something like that. I'm like, 30 days, 60 days. Like I remember there, I was like, hey, how will I know if this is not for me? And they're like, oh, if you haven't closed the deal in like 30 to 60 days, like real estate's not for you. It took me like 9 months to do my first transaction, right? And so, yeah, I went into it just being like, this is going to be quick. Like, I was like, wow, a year from now, like my life is going to be completely different. I know some people had that experience, but that was not my experience. So that was the biggest challenge, was like sticking through it despite like what I first thought it was going to be. And thankfully, like I met a lot of good people here in Asheville who were like a lot more realistic about what the path and the approach could be. And, what like 99% of the people do, I guess, I didn't fall into that 1% that just like find it and just like turn it around in 16 months or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if I've met anybody either that has gone from 0 to 7 figures in in a 6-month time frame just by hitting home run. I mean, again, I'm sure it can be done. I'm sure it has been done, but I don't know anybody like that.
I went into it thinking that was the normal or that was the standard, right? And so that was, again, to answer your original, that was the hardest. It was like, okay, these are real expectations now. And like, okay, this is like a long road now. Let's go.
Oh yeah. Right. An awkward call to your yacht broker after the first 30 days.
Yes. That was an uncomfortable phone call.
Yeah. A little behind schedule. So just keep that on backlog for me.
Rodrigo, what was one of your first victories you can recall in the real estate when you decided to go that path that you realized this is achievable and doable? And
yeah, I mean, it was like the first moment where I realized that I was going to be part of a deal that was closing. It was like a wholesale deal served up to me on a platter, basically. Somebody I'd met was like, look, I have a lead. They're asking like 75. As long as they sign the contract for 75, I'll buy it from you at 78 or something like that. Like it was, hand delivered to me. It was like, just pretty much don't mess it up. And so I did that. And I just remember kind of it all coming together and like driving home from that and just like, I don't know, yelling and pounding the steering wheel. I was like, can't believe it's happening finally. And just, that realization of like, because it was 9 months, right? Of 9 months of, most people being like, oh man, I guess it didn't work out. It's like, not yet. And then, having like, okay, I believe in it. Like it's doable. It's possible.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. It makes all the difference getting that first one done and from theory to actual practical. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Rodrigo, can you elaborate a little bit on your wholesaling? Obviously, I know you're reaching out to people, but just how's that work? Is again, it seems like market obviously goes in cycles, and you're gonna have ups and downs, and in terms of both. I mean, right now market's crazy hot. So what are you seeing now with respect to wholesaling?
So like one of the reasons I transitioned out of wholesaling and mostly focusing on flipping is because one of the things that wholesaling is, it's like, for me, I found it was a lot of moving pieces in areas that I can't control as much. And so, you're coordinating with somebody who's selling the house, coordinating with the attorney who's closing it, coordinating with somebody who's buying the house. And so all of these pieces, and they all have different conversations and different interests, and everybody has a different thing that's important to them in that transaction. And so, that process was like, it was fun, right? Because it's like every deal was like a different jigsaw puzzle you get to build, you put it together, and it's like, it feels good when it happens. But then when you're flipping, it's a little like there are a lot of moving pieces, but they're a lot more like under your control. It's like, well, I'm coordinating with like people I'm writing checks to. And so I'm the client versus the other way around. And so that's one of the benefits that I found so far making that transition. I don't know if I answered your question though, honestly.
No, I'm just trying to think and understand, I mean, obviously if you're trying to well, actually, yeah, let me fine tune that. So just in this market, we all know that you almost could freaking fall out of bed and somebody will have an offer on your table, the way the market is so hot right now. So I'd imagine that probably has made it more difficult from a wholesaling standpoint. And now that you're focusing more on the flips, in a way you're just taking that a step further instead of, moving that deal that you found into to sell to somebody else, to flip it to somebody else, or sorry, transition it to somebody else, whatever the right words are. You're keeping that deal and you're running the rehab yourself, but you still got to find the deal. So how's that in this market? Yeah.
I think I didn't know that this was going to happen in the market, but that was one of the major benefits of switching to rehabbing versus wholesaling. I didn't have the same pressure to do the volume that I had been doing before, right? Because every rehab deal is significantly higher margins than a wholesale deal. So if, I don't know, just arbitrary numbers, but I mean, for every one rehab that I do now, it would have been 5 wholesales before. Oh, and so that need or the urgency to find things and put them under contract and then close and all that, it just very much totally changes. So my whole thing going into this year is when it was I started focusing on rehabs February, March of last year. And so this year is less is more. And then really trying to focus, just say no to stuff that's marginal. I don't need to wholesale it because in theory, every the rehabs are doing what they're supposed to do. So, I'm still trying to see how true that plays out as I'm learning this, but yes.
Yeah, I understand. Just curious on that. Was there any market timing? It had nothing to do with COVID. You saw that the market had shifted a little bit where it was almost better.
Yeah, it wasn't a market. It was just really feeling man, I don't know how sustainable I feel wholesaling is. Okay. And so what's the solution? Change, do not do real estate, do a different form, just shrink market, whatever. And just talking and looking and exploring, I was I think I had some bad memories of doing some rehabs before in the past. And so I was really hesitant to get into it. And so finally decided to make that move after having a lot of conversations with people and being, okay, I think I have a solid plan in place to mitigate, the downside.
Makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So in your new focus in your real estate business as it has evolved and grown, and again, that makes sense. You have to roll and evolve with the times. Have you encountered anything humorous along the way? Any funny stories?
So I have a house that we're listing, and about a week ago, somebody who's doing some work that's hey man, I'm pretty sure somebody's sleeping in your house. And we're a week away from it. I'm there's no way. So we talk to the contractor. It's no, nobody's sleeping there. All right, take your word for it. Got some suspicions, but it didn't. I was yeah, okay, we're not seeing anything. Got some suspicions. A couple of days ago, today's Tuesday, right? So Sunday, get a call from the list agent who's out there. It's hey man, so there's somebody sleeping not in the house, but the garage had a back storage room, and it's kind of you wouldn't notice it. He was walking around just getting ready to put it on the market. He's I noticed this extension cord. And so I knocked on the door, it was closed from the inside. And eventually he almost had, basically had to kick the door in. And then it was a guy who worked for the contractor. So thankfully it was somebody that everybody knew. So it was an easy comment, you can't be here. It's time to go. So yes, that's the most recent. I don't know. I feel every house has got their own little oof. That's real estate type of moment.
Yeah, that's funny. Like you said, in a way, at least it was a friendly rather than somebody random. I mean, I think we probably have all heard some of the awful stories about where somebody's been squatting and all of a sudden they wound up having a claim to the place even though they don't have a lease, and then it takes you months and legal dollars to get them out. Crazy.
Yeah, no. So thankfully, there's nothing like that. As it could have been bad, but it was a 30-minute frustrating / funny thing, and then it's been all taken care of. Yeah,
good. That's good.
Glad I ended up in the funny camp side.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
Rodrigo, where are you today on your journey? You mentioned a little bit of how you kind of pivoted and gone more toward the fix and flip. Is that what you think you're going to pursue going forward, or just is it going to be market based? Are you trying to build up a substantial passive income, or is it more active through doing the fix and flips versus the buy and hold?
Yeah, I know. So where am I in the journey? I'd still definitely say I'm in that learning and building stage, right? So just trying to figure it out, keep trying to improve on the things that I'm doing. And then I want the rental game. For me, that's the long-term play. So, all the flipping side of things kind of is doing that to feed the rental side of the business.
Okay. Yeah. So looking more, because it's been described too, in different parts of real estate, that the rentals are passive income, right? And once you get them set in place, it builds income stream over time versus, like the wholesaling, right? You quit getting paid when you quit performing, right? If you quit working, the paycheck stops. So you got kind of two different avenues there, and trying to transition more toward the passive side of it. It sounds like for long term.
Very much. I know. So there's like different schools of thoughts is like whether you can build a business that's like wholesaling business or a flipping business and then step out of it and like have like the true, I don't know. I feel like it's definitely doable, right? People have done it, but I'm like, for me, I just feel like it's easier to just stay active and then close it down once the portfolio is good enough, or you can transition from doing, I don't know, whatever, X amount to like, hey, I'm only going to do 2 a year and I'm happy, like, cause that's more for fun versus like, I need the active.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Again, you in a way, you're following a life cycle, if you think about it, because you started wholesaling and then you just realize, okay, wait a minute, it's more profitable for you to hold on to the right properties and then take them full through, a rehab cycle. And then, oh, wait a minute, if you can, obviously it's all, you got to manage the cash flow side of it, but then, well, wait a second, I'm going to hold on to this one because it's the right property in the right location. And therefore you're continuing to build the passive, you're going to flip some out to sell them to other people, but at the same point in time, you're going to hold on to select ones until you have that backlog built up, and then you're right, you would have the option down the road. And speaking of, what do you see 5-10 years, again, we don't know what the future is, of course, but what do you think way down the road? What does it look like for you?
Like what I'll be doing?
Yeah. What do you think is your future?
I still feel like I'm early enough in the building stage. I'll probably be doing pretty close variation of this, a couple of tweaks and changes there. Like maybe I get to go biking more often than I do now, or just small like lifestyle things, adjustments. But yeah, I enjoy it. Right. I'm not feeling burnt out or anything like that. So
right.
I don't know. Even if the passive was totally built up, I don't think that would change that. Right. It's a good time in life for me to just be active in that way.
Yeah.
As far as like building and being out there and generating, I find it life-giving. So at the moment.
Yeah.
Excellent. Was there something you've implemented recently in your business that's helped you achieve your goals, either personal or CRM or anything like that?
I joined a new mastermind about 1.5 years ago, as I was transitioning more into the rehab side of things. And just being like, hey, like I need help. Like I need to be in a different room with different people as far as the wholesaling conversations. And that's been super, super helpful and very, very good decision.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. How much has it affected you having to be, kind of the group gatherings have been kind of to a minimum here in the last 18 months due to COVID and stuff? Has that really affected your business? And, we all like to get out and network, meet people, talk and find out what's happening in the community. How has that affected you?
No, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's been really good, actually, just because it's like, then you're not having to decide which events are worth going to or not. Like it's a no across the board. So that's been like a positive and like, the networking you miss out on a little bit, but I think if you've kind of done the work ahead of time, then it didn't change anything. If anything, like this solidifies the relationships you had going into this like separation time, because then they're either real or they're not.
Right. Well, excellent. Yeah. Good.
Yes. So Rodrigo, again, just obviously we're not asking your neighborhood that you're finding deals in, but are you within a few hour drive of kind of where you live? How do you kind of operate just to keep things like the travel time within reason?
Yeah, no. So I operate in 3 counties, so Buncombe, Henderson, and Haywood.
Oh, okay.
And so if it's in those counties, for the most part, I'll go take a look and we'll see if it's makes sense for us to look at. But if it's outside of those counties, it's like an easy no right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, that keeps it geographically desirable, so you don't have a 3-hour drive to a place, and having to meet a contractor who then shows up 2 hours late because they got held up. So yeah.
And the market a lot better, right? Like I feel that gut feeling that you get. I mean, you always stay pretty numbers driven, but it helps to have a gut feeling like, oh yeah, I did that house a year ago, half a mile from here, and like that was my experience, and so you can kind of build that experience a little bit.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Rodrigo, just as you've kind of evolved and obviously learned your craft and have pivoted a little bit to stay current with the market and where things are now, and just obviously what suits you in terms of your interests, as well as obviously that that headache factor that obviously is part of any job, anything you do. I mean, again, we choose to do this. It's fun. It's enjoyable. We get a lot out of it, but at the same time, there's a grind. There's hard work and dedication you have to be able to do this. But just as you think about that, what advice would you give someone who's looking to perhaps try to make a transition, make a change?
Yeah. I think the best advice that I got is like, make sure that you're choosing a plan that you believe in, because then it's a lot easier to stick to a repeatable process or a plan if you believe in the plan and you've seen it play out well for somebody else before. And I think kind of like goes back to like the mastermind. Like when you see people who are doing business the way you want to do it, and you can get closer to that, then it's a lot easier to believe in the journey, even like if nothing's happening that you feel is good, that somebody told you and you've seen them have success. They said, I did these things, it just sucks for a while. Like it's a lot easier to believe that it sucks for a while when the person who told you, hey, here's a plan to execute against, you've seen them on the flip side of it.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, that's huge, actually, getting to be around people that are a higher level than you are, that you can, learn from their mistakes, learn from their lessons and device it. And like I said, it's worked versus just a theory. You read somebody in a book, maybe you may or may not know what their real story is. And it just seems a lot more real, I think, when you can, in the interaction, the asking questions with them. And like you said, the mastermind, it sounds like it's a valuable group that you're able to become part of.
Very much so.
Yeah. Well, what's the best way for listeners to reach you if they have any wholesale or looking to fix and flip or anything that might be up your alley?
So it would be just AshevilleCashBuyers.com would be the best website. Probably all of our contact information is on there. If you want to do any investing in the Asheville area, buying, selling, etc., happy to chat.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And we'll include that in the show notes below. But Rodrigo, I'd like to thank you very much for being on the Road Less Travel show, and wish you continued success. We enjoyed the conversation.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Rodrigo, really want to thank you for being on. We'd also like to thank our listeners. Certainly please continue to listen, give us a 5-star rating so we can continue bringing you great content and great interviews like we had today with Rodrigo. Remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.